Malden, and welcome to the Malden Zone. My name is Kathleen Manning Hall. I'm the Chief Administrative Officer in the Office of Mayor Gary Christensen. I would like to say thank you to Fran Matuccio of MATV for the opportunity he gives to the Mayor's Office every third Wednesday of the month to host this show. We have some great guests for you tonight, and they will be joining me to talk about each of their positions on boards and commissions in the city, their respective experiences, being appointed, and how they are finding serving the Malden community. Just to tell you a little bit about myself, aside from managing the mayor's office, which is the easiest part of my job because we have such a phenomenal staff, I act as the liaison between the department heads and the mayor. I assist the mayor and make recommendations to him on city functions, and I handle all the press for the mayor's office. One of the wonderful things that Mayor Christensen has implemented, going back to the days of the transition report, was to have a good long look at the boards and commissions in the city. He wanted to figure out which boards were no longer active, which needed to be reappointed, and which had appointees who have long ago stopped serving. Something that was very important to him is that the days of a mayor hand-selecting members to fill appointments was long ago over. He decided to open up the process to the public, whereby we put an application out online, we described the Board of Commission, we posted it to the papers, the website, Twitter, Facebook, and we got a phenomenal response of people who were very interested in serving the Malden community. We collected the applications, we reviewed them, interviewed folks, and made recommendations to the mayor. We have gotten a tremendous response from this action, and an amazing array of new talent has come into the city that we would otherwise not know. So the mayor has been very pleased with the applications and the applicants that we've gotten, and we have done a great job filling these positions. So I just want to let you know that we have, again, a great group of guests tonight. Stay tuned, and we'll be right back with our first guest.
Transition right in. 2 years, ready. Go.
Welcome back. My first guest is Shannon Brandano, the newest member of the Board of Appeal. Shannon is the legal member of the board, and she is here for the first time,
Yes,
representing the Board of Appeal. I was just talking about the application and interview process that the city has put forth. And so tell me, how did you learn about the vacancy for this position?
I learned about the vacancy through the City Malden website, and then subsequent to that, my mother-in-law. So I filled out the application, sent it in, and I probably got a call probably 2 weeks after I sent it in for an interview. And I went in for the interview, and there was probably 5 or 6 people that work for the mayor that interviewed me, so it wasn't
intimidating.
an easy process. I was interrogated basically, but in a good way, and I liked that because it showed that the city of Malden, being a resident, that they really cared about who they were going to hire, and that they would make sure that they were going to do a good job. And they asked for my background and what I would foresee, what I could benefit from the board, and such things like that.
So you felt good about the new process that the mayor has implemented?
Absolutely. As a resident, absolutely.
So tell me a little bit about what the Board of Appeal does.
Well, there's all different things that it does, and we work with the building department as well. So if the building department issued a cease and desist order, say, to a resident that maybe had an illegal in-law, or something wasn't up to code, they would have to come before the board if they wanted it lifted, and they'd have to show why it should be lifted, and the board would either put conditions or lift it, or deny it. And then you have, if you need a variance, say that you're on a non-conforming lot and you need a variance to build something, you would have to come before the board and show how you would do it and why you should get it, and things like that. So it's really important because it protects the abutters, and that's why I like it, because as an attorney, I had cases where there was an elderly couple involved in particular, and they had a builder that bought a piece of property next door to them, and the builder was ruining their property because this is a different town, by the way. The building inspector...
Thanks for clarifying.
Yes. The building inspector was allowing a lot of things to happen that shouldn't have happened. So their property was getting flooded, and it was just a disaster. And they didn't have enough money for an attorney, so I took it on, you know, not pro bono, but it was a very decreased fee, and I helped them out. And that's what really got me interested in doing zoning issues, because I really felt bad for the couple. You know, I think if, you know, if they didn't have the voice and the means to get a hold of me, I think that it would have went, you know, undone. Nobody would have done anything. The building inspector wasn't listening to them, and when they got the legal letter, the building inspector, that's when they responded.
Well, let me ask you, you are the legal member of the board.
Yes.
So you're the only legal member of the board. So tell me, what is your specific role as the legal member?
I sit as a voting member, and I have to inspect the properties. You know, we usually have it the last Thursday of every month, the hearings. So Tuesday before the hearing, I go to all the properties and I inspect the property that's coming before me. And then we vote on it, you know, and then I write the decision and I post it within 10 days.
Okay, right.
You know,
okay, so what has been so far, because you've been serving for a couple of months now, so tell me, what has been the most interesting issue that you've dealt with so far in the city of Malden?
I think, you know, there's been a couple interesting issues for me anyway. There was one property that had, you know, that was abutting a gas station, and, you know, my co-member Jack Colangeli and I, you know, we're familiar with the 21E, which is to do ground testing, because if they're going to buy this lot and build on the lot, you want to make sure that it's not contaminated.
Right.
So that's really important, and that's why it's so important to inspect the properties prior to the hearing, because if you don't look at the properties, how could you know that it was abutting the gas station? So that's why it's important as a member of the board and as a legal member to do that. The second one that was interesting to me was one that was another property that wanted to put an addition on, I believe, and it was in a rocky ledge area, so they had to chip away, and when you start using drills, your abutters' foundations can get cracked, so you want to have testing on that done and conditions attached to that, to make sure that you protect the abutters. So it's really, it's a great board because it protects, you know, the citizens of Malden.
Exactly. And there are how many members of the board?
It varies. We have alternates, but the voting members is, you know, there's three of us that are always there. Bob Donnelly, Jack Colangeli, and Claire Crokin, and then we have the alternates that come in. So, you know, 6, I believe.
And you have to go out on the road. You have to go out on the road and check these properties out, and
I want to.
Yeah.
It's, you know, I mean, I don't think it's mandatory, but I do it.
So how much time do you spend actually out on the road investigating?
It depends on what property I'm looking at. If there's a property that needs really good attention, we bring a camera. So we'll take pictures. If, you know, if the property owners aren't home, we'll take pictures. But I like to do a good inspection. You know, and it's not just about, you know, if they want the addition, it's about really looking at fire sprinklers. You know, anything that needs to be installed that you know is going to protect the health, the safety of the person living there. You know, so when they're doing things, you want to make sure that the wiring's correct, you know, and especially smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors, they should all be present in the property.
And how does it feel to be serving the public in this fashion?
I love doing it. I do. I really enjoy it. I enjoy this board.
You're finding it very rewarding.
I find, because they're not lazy. They're not lazy. They're doing their job, and that's why I like it.
So you're finding that you're doing a lot of really great work in the city.
Yes. I mean, it's, you know, like I said, I've only been there, you know, 4 months, 5 months now, and I have so much to learn. There's so much to learn. So your legal background is really coming into play here. It is, and I actually just did a seminar on problem properties on my own through the Mass Bar Association. So I took that, and I'm learning a lot about mold and just really different issues that, you know, in one case, as a matter of fact, a mold issue just come up on Tuesday. And I pointed it out to the homeowner, which it's not our problem, but it was hers, and I noticed it, and I brought it, and she said, oh, thank you, you know, because she was tearing apart a part of her house, but I said it's going to seep into the other part, and you should have that checked as well when you're doing the addition. So that was very helpful, I'm sure, to her. Yes. And the Board of Appeal meets every third Tuesday of the month? Yes. No, on the Thursdays.
Oh, okay.
So Bob Donnelly and I go out, and he is great. I can't say enough about him. He is just fabulous, and he knows that board, and he knows the properties. He knows his way around Malden. And he's just a great mentor for me.
So does he goes and he picks up you and he picks up Claire and you guys kind of
Yeah, well, I
travel
haven't
around?
been with Claire yet, but I'm sure she'll be coming with us. But it's just been me and Bob the last couple months, but I know she'll be coming. I think she just have prior obligations. As long as, there's a couple of us going, it's, the job is getting done.
Well, I just want to say thank you so much, Shannon,
no,
for
thank
coming
you for
out
having
tonight. We are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we will be speaking with the Mystic Valley Development Commission's newest member.
Thank you very much.
Welcome back. I would like to extend a warm welcome to Nick Pernice, the newest member of the Mystic Valley Development Commission. Nick, why don't you start by telling the folks what the purpose of the Mystic Valley Development Commission is?
Yeah, sure. First of all, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. So the commission acts, if you're not familiar with it, almost like a mini redevelopment authority. So it has the power to take land by eminent domain, assemble parcels, and hand it over to a developer to develop.
Wow. Can you tell me a little bit about your background, which brought you here?
Yeah, so my background is I pretty much lived in Malden my whole life. I got a master's degree from UMass Lowell in Economic and Social Development of Regions. My background that's specific to the commission was I worked in Lowell for the Community Development Department, as well as in Lawrence for the Redevelopment Authority there. So there's a lot of background in my previous work experience that's pretty applicable to this commission.
Yes, I know that this particular commission, the makeup of it is just a little bit different because it's made up of, why don't you tell us a little bit about the makeup of the commission?
Yeah, it's a 6-member commission. It's the mayor of Everett, the mayor of Medford, and the mayor of Malden, as well as a resident advisee from each city.
And how has it been working with these members from the different cities?
It's been great. There's a huge atmosphere of cooperation, which has actually been really useful for the commission. Because it's 3 cities who have ownership over this parcel of land, it's about 200 acres. It actually provides a lot of opportunity to get grants and funding because we have funding from the EPA, Department of Transportation, HUD, among other funding sources. And because it's 3 cities working together in one region to develop it, it's the cooperation is viewed in a good terms, which has actually allowed more funding and more opportunity.
Now, what is coming up with the development in River's Edge? Is there anything that you can talk about with us tonight?
Yeah, so right now at River's Edge, there's office buildings, there's apartments, and there's a 10-acre park. It's right on the Malden River, and if no one's ever been there, I'd suggest going to it. It's really nice. For the future development, there's going to be, right now there's talks about having another apartment building and another office building, and possibly a playing field.
So you've had some meetings regarding this so far?
Yes.
Yes. And at what stage do you think they are now?
Well, we're talking to the developer right now about that. He's doing traffic studies. It looks like right now we're probably going to have bike lanes put in on Commercial Street.
Oh, great. That's wonderful. Now, what about activity on the river? Do you all ever discuss activity on the river at all, and perhaps canoes and boats? Is that not something that the commission discusses?
Well, the site was a former brownfield site. It was heavily used for an industry, and it's pretty polluted. There is caps. The soil below it is still contaminated. As far as the river, I don't believe it's safe to swim, but it's been cleaned up. There's wildlife coming back. There's trees. There's stuff planted, and I believe there's talks to actually clean up the water a little bit more.
Yeah, it is actually, you're right. I would recommend it anybody who hasn't been over there to definitely go and have a look and enjoy the bike path. I myself have gone over there with my dog, and I know a lot of people do. It's a beautiful area next to the river. Tell me how you found the process of being appointed to this board.
Well, I found out about this position on Facebook. I'm friends with the city of Malden on Facebook, and I like to be informed about what's going on in Malden, and this position was posted on Facebook, and I became interested and applied. The vetting process was pretty thorough. I had an interview, there was an HR representative, you were there, and I had to go through a query check, had to get appointed by the mayor, and yeah.
Well, the mayor has said great things about you, and so I'm sure that you are doing a great job on the commission. And our time is just about up, and I want to thank you, Nick, for joining us. When we come back, we will be talking to a member of a brand new commission in the city, so stay tuned.
Take a sip of water.
He is a member of the brand new Energy Efficiency Commission. This commission was sponsored by Councilor at Large Craig Spatafora, who chairs the commission. So welcome, Drew.
Thank you, Kathleen.
And first tell me how you came to be a member of the commission. How did you find the process?
The process was great. I actually, back in the last election cycle, I ran for City Councilor at Large. Made a lot of good connections during that run. I wasn't successful, but the connections were great, and as part of that, I wanted to continue my civic involvement, and a few of the other councilors told me that there would be some board commission openings that would be coming up, and to keep checking the city website. So I did that, and I saw the Energy Efficiency Commission pop up, and it fit my skill set very well. I work in commercial real estate, and part of my job is to actually make the buildings that we own more sustainable, and to lower the cost of operating those buildings. So I felt that it would be a good fit for the commission.
So this is something that you probably wanted to stay active in the community.
Yes.
You know, having had your first taste of running for public office.
Yes.
Which how did you find that? I know we're a little bit off subject now, but how did you find that?
It's a lot of work. I give anyone who runs for office amazing kudos. It's quite a job when you already have a full-time job.
Right.
But like I said, I really got the taste for wanting to help the public. I'm a new resident to Malden. I've been here about 2 years now.
I think that's where we met.
Exactly.
It was you campaigning and my coming upon your visibility and,
exactly.
and speaking with you.
And
yes.
I really wanted to, this is my hometown now. I want to give back to it.
Good for you. Now, The commission had its first meeting just a couple of months ago.
Mm-hmm.
What is the purpose of the Energy Efficiency Commission? Why don't you tell the public?
Yeah, so the purpose of the Energy Efficiency Commission is really to kind of make recommendations in ways that we can modify the buildings that the City of Malden has. That's one component. A lot of these buildings were built quite some time ago, and they're pretty inefficient, and any city has a very large utility bill. So our goal, one of our goals is to actually implement little changes that can actually save 15 to 20% of utility costs, thereby increasing funds that can go to other programs in the City of Malden. The other thing we're looking at is the preservation of green space. There's a lot of parks in the city. Some of them need to be cleaned up, and it's organizing volunteers to get to these parks and work on them and increase green space. One of our real hot topics is public awareness of sustainability. There's a lot of programs out there offered by the state of Massachusetts, by National Grid, that a lot of people don't know about. They're low cost to free services that can actually reduce the amount of utilities you use in your home. And given that the winter is coming up and a lot of people have trouble paying for their utility bills, you can reduce your utility usage sometimes up to 25% by having these free energy audits done in your home.
So if somebody's listening right now and they say that, I want to do this, I want to reduce my costs over the winter.
Yeah.
How do you promote that?
I first recommend you go to National Grid's website, and there they work through a program called Mass Save. So go to their website, and it should be right on their homepage. If not, just type in Mass Save National Grid Malden, and they'll point you in the right direction. You can grab a phone number from there as well and call someone directly or shoot an email.
Now, have you done this in your home?
I have.
You have?
I did an energy audit in my home.
And how much money are you saving?
I will be saving. I just did it. And what we're going to do is my home was built in 1890. It's very old, and it doesn't have any good insulation in it. So what they're going to do is they're going to come and insulate my home. And I think I'll have to get the exact details, but basically I only have to pay for 25% of that insulation work, which equates to really significant savings. And then the money that I do pay, I'll actually see those savings over the next few years in lower utility bills.
So I would say right now, and encourage everybody to go on the National Grid website.
Yes.
To try to get as much information as they can to try to save energy, and that helps everybody.
Right, and just so everyone knows, we're currently working on, through the City of Malden's website, setting up a Energy Efficiency Commission webpage where we plan on posting links and relevant information for not just the residents of the city, but for other city employees to use in their day-to-day working environments in the City of Malden. So,
and what stage are you at in that?
We are currently working with Craig Spadafora. He's on the commission as well, and he's kind of working with the city government to get the webpage up and running. But we do have a website, an email address. It's eec@cityofmalden.org.
And folks can reach out to you with questions that they have?
Questions, comments, and feel free to even attend our meetings. It's the second Wednesday of every month at 6 o'clock, typically in City Hall.
And if I haven't mentioned this yet, which I don't think I have, all of these commissions, boards and commissions meetings are open to the public. They're all posted, they're online, they are posted in the city clerk's office, so definitely check it out. They're all open to the public. And I know that energy efficiency is a huge goal for Mayor Christensen. I mean, he really wants to make the, City Hall aside, he really wants to make our city much more energy efficient. So what is the first goal that you think that the Commission's going to tackle?
Yeah, right now what we're looking at is a citywide energy audit. And what we're doing is we're going to put out a request for proposal to a bunch of companies that specialize in coming into municipalities, looking at the systems that the buildings have, looking at the street lighting, looking at anything that uses energy in the city. And what they do is they will go out, they'll get grants for us, so that a lot of the things that they recommend, the city won't actually have to pay for. There's a lot of federal and state money out there that all we have to do is get a plan together, put that plan to these people who provide the money. They come in, they do these upgrades, and the city could save upwards of $100,000 to $200,000 if it's done correctly.
you're talking about municipal buildings?
Municipal buildings,
Municipal
correct.
buildings, okay.
Correct. So that's our top goal right now for the city from a municipal side is to get that energy audit in place and then slowly transition some of the things we're learning from the municipal buildings into teaching the public that they can do in their homes.
So education is a big piece of all of this.
It is.
So do you foresee the commission having a page on the city's website about ways that residents can, you know, recycle better, save energy better, you know, walk to work? I mean, what are some of the easy things that residents can do to try to save some energy?
Right. You know, the simplest thing, and and people sometimes forget, is really, you know, in terms of energy, turn off your lights. You know, a lot of times, and convert your old light bulbs into compact fluorescents. You know, these little things can save a lot of energy. You know, Malden is very accessible by public transportation. You know, a lot of people will use a car to make a short trip into the city when you can take the Orange Line, you can take a bus, you can take the commuter rail. So these small things can really cut down on the carbon footprint. It can really cut down on traffic.
So how are you looking at preserving green spaces?
There's a member of our committee who's very active in tree preservation and park preservation, and he's been tasked with going through the city, and we're going to actually be doing a tree audit where we'll be walking around to kind of see what trees we have, and trees that are sick or dying, trees that we can actually replace, because you know there's a lot of trees that over time, and you walk down the street, you see they've been cut down and there's stumps. We've already, I'm sure a lot of people have seen, the city of Malden's already been going around, hired a firm to grind those stumps down, and we're going to be replacing them with trees that do less damage to the sidewalks, so you're saving costs there, and are less susceptible to disease.
Well, I know the city has planted about between 25 and 30 brand new trees.
They have.
Throughout the city, and there's a whole lot more that are going to be planted in the spring. I've heard some talk about the different varieties of trees that they're going to be planting. You just mentioned this. This was kind of an Asian pear, non-fruit bearing tree.
Some amazing hybrids they have out there.
Yes. So is that the same type of tree that people can look forward to having planted in their sidewalks, or are you going to be looking into different varieties?
There'll be multiple types of trees depending on the location, the sunlight, but that's kind of where one of our members, who's an expert in trees, will actually be assisting the commission. And then on the park side, you know, a lot of the times with the parks, we'll have volunteers out cleaning the parks, but we're also, I know Mayor Christensen has moved this forward, is the big belly trash receptacles.
Yes.
You know, it costs a lot of money to go around the city and collect all this trash. What Mayor Christensen has done is got these large trash containers that actually use solar power, compact trash, and make it it costs less now. You don't have to go to pick up the trash as often.
Saves on gas, saves on manpower,
exactly.
all that kind of stuff. So where do you see the commission 1 year from now?
I see us wrapping up, hopefully, our energy audit and have selected a firm and are moving towards wrapping up the audit and getting the results that we can actually start to implement in the city of Malden and actually start to finally see some cost savings in running some of these older buildings.
And what about City Hall? What do you think about that?
You know, City Hall, there are some small things that can be done.
We almost lost it last night with the earthquake.
Okay, I know, I heard that. That may have been okay, as long as no one was in it. City Hall is very dated. It needs a lot of work, and there are things we can do to make it more efficient, but it was built in a time where efficiency wasn't the key point that people were looking for. The only way to really make City Hall more efficient is to actually create a new City Hall.
Right. I think that is definitely the thought of this new mayor that we have, and everybody in the mayor's staff for that matter. So we are just about out of time. Drew, I thank you so much for coming out and sharing all of this knowledge with the residents of Malden. I look forward to hearing more about this commission moving forward, and stay tuned for our next guest. Welcome back. Our next guest is Erica Lotz, who is the newest member of the Public Works Commission. A little background, this was the very first commission where the vacancies were filled using the mayor's new process. I have to say that that was the first one, and we were so excited with the caliber of applicants that came out for this position. There's such amazing talent in this city, so we are appreciating your work on the commission. I've been hearing great things about you. So welcome, and tell me what the commission does.
So the Public Works Commission has a lot of responsibilities that fall under their purview, but I would say the three primary items would be setting water rates. We also address water abatement hearings. So when people are upset about their water bills, they come before us to discuss that. And then the third item would be curb cuts. So if a resident is interested in widening their driveway, they apply to us to get that approved.
So what is your role?
So we have a three-person commission, and so the three of us primarily approve the water rates. So this year, for those that are aware, over the summer we did an increase in water rates to cover increasing costs that are put upon the city by the MWRA. So sometimes people are upset with the water rate increases, and sometimes that also translates into increased water bills. So we have, I think maybe last night we had a hearing, and we probably had about 15 people come before us to talk about their water bill.
So they were upset that their rates were increased. Now, how do you handle that? Walk us through a scenario with a person who comes in upset. Yep. My water bill is way too high, I didn't use all this water. How do you handle that?
So overall, I'd say that there's a perception in the city that the water meters are not accurate, and that would actually be incorrect. The water meters are very accurate, but people take time out of their schedule, and the city staff assist us and pull together information so that we can be well read on each case before they come before us. So each person comes before us and explains that they felt, typically the case is that they feel that they did not use all of this water, that their water meter is broken, when in fact the water meters actually have codes associated with them, and so we can review the code information, and usually really what's going on is that the homeowner had some sort of leak within their toilet that just wasn't addressed in time, which resulted in more water being used than their typical monthly water use, and therefore they're upset about this cost increase. So generally speaking, we like to work with the residents who have taken time out of their schedule and come to us, and although we might not agree with their stand that their water meter is broken, we usually try to work with them on making the bill a little bit more in line with their typical water use.
So you grant somewhat of an abatement.
Yes, yes. More often than not, we do, just because in some cases it's sort of a hardship for people to pay these bills. So
now,
we at the same time we also try to educate the residents on how to check their toilets for leaks and things like that.
To that end, there is a great video on the city website about, and I'm not remembering the name, it's something I think it says something about flushing, but there's this great video on the website that actually walks residents through determining and discovering leaks they may have on their toilet. It's very, very descriptive, and I would recommend all residents going on the city website and having a look at that. You simply go to the YouTube portion of the city website and have a look at that, and that would save so many people so much money probably, to try to determine, fix that, nip that one in the bud. How do you like working with the public?
I do really enjoy it. For my sort of full-time job, I do consult on the drinking water side with cities and towns throughout Massachusetts. So I do deal with the public some in my day-to-day job, but this has been an interesting experience overall. I've lived in Malden for about 14 years, but haven't really been that active in the community. So this is sort of, I see it a good opportunity to get exposed to more folks within the city government, and also have a chance to kind of meet people from the public as well.
So you have a big background in water. Why don't you tell me a little bit about, tell the folks a little bit about what you do. And again, we were so excited to have you, someone who had never been involved with city government before, come forward and offer your services to us in a way to serve the public where we would never have known you.
Right.
So tell me a little bit about your background.
So I'm actually a registered professional civil engineer in the state of Massachusetts. I moved to Malden, as I said, 14 years ago after getting my bachelor's degree in civil engineering at WPI, and I landed in Malden, and after a couple of years I decided I was ready to purchase, and so I stayed here. And so for my day-to-day job, I do water distribution system evaluations for various communities, water treatment plant projects, storage tanks, everything sort of related to drinking water infrastructure that a city or town might have. So when it comes to sort of the Public Works Commission side and some of our responsibilities, I kind of had a somewhat of a leg up in that I already understand water meters
And rates.
and all those kind of things. So so it did seem when a coworker actually is the one who noticed on the website that there was a position that was vacant, and so she is also a Malden resident, and she wasn't interested in participating but passed the information along to me, so I thought it would be a good fit to apply.
Well, that's fantastic. And how are you finding the whole public service? Like, I think you started to talk about that a little bit. Have you been involved in public service in the past?
Not really in this kind of capacity. You know, I do volunteer type work associated with professional associations or affiliated with my college, but never sort of in this real driven towards the public side. So I have found it, you know, very rewarding, and I've certainly been learning a lot. That's for sure.
And a little bit time consuming, because these meetings can go on for how long?
So I mean, generally speaking, I'd say our meetings are, you know, 2 to 3 hours in that kind of range for our water abatement hearings. The curb cuts are a little bit more straightforward, so that process is a little less.
Yeah. So in the curb cuts, tell me what the process is. If somebody can anybody ask for a curb cut?
Yep. So typically, say you're interested in widening your driveway because you're concerned. You maybe have a driveway that's 2 lanes wide, but only 1 lane access on the street, and you'd like to widen that, for example. You can apply and you fill out some paperwork, and typically the city staff does a little screening in advance to make sure that it's really feasible, because there is a $100 fee associated with residents who apply for the curb cut. So as opposed to making the resident pay the fee when it's really not feasible, they do a little screening to save the residents the money. And then each, so then it comes before us, and we have to review it to determine whether or not it's feasible and whether it meets all of the requirements of the city. So generally speaking, all 3 of the commission members, we take the time to drive to the locations to check out, get an idea of how the curb is laid out in relation to, you know, any bus stops or utility poles, and then the folks come before us in a hearing, and generally speaking, because it's been kind of screened ahead of time, these applications are typically approved.
Typically granted.
Yep.
Well, and what about, do you have anything to do with the sidewalks and the trees?
Generally speaking, most of that, although some of that falls to the Public Works Commission, we delegate authority to the DPW director.
Okay.
So we have had to deal with some kind of random things. We had two things come before us in the time that I've served, requests for the installation of park benches within parks. And so that kind of comes before us as well, and, you know, we're the ones that approve it. But obviously if someone wants to donate a bench for a park, that seems like a pretty good deal overall. So again, generally those are approved, but that does also fall under our commission.
Well, I have to say, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I really appreciate your work and all that you've done for the city, and you know, you're coming out here and sharing that with the residents of Malden and letting them know a little bit about what you all do on the DPW Commission. So we have one last guest. I'll give you a hint. It is the new commission member is a relative of who our stadium is named after. So stay tuned. Congressman Torbett McDonald and the granddaughter of the great Jack McDonald, whom the McDonald Stadium is named after. So welcome, Laurie.
Thank you very much, Kathleen.
And I am particularly happy to have you here because, so many reasons, but because of the long history you bring to this stadium and to this commission. As you know, the mayor is thrilled with how the renovations came out on the new stadium.
As well he should be.
And we all are. So tell me a little bit about how you came to know about the reinvigorating of this commission and how you came to apply.
I moved back to Malden 11 years ago and have maintained a rather quiet existence since my children are grown and I can afford to do that. But I had thought long and often about in what way I could be of some service to the city. And I was reading the Boston Sunday Globe and reading Globe North, and as I always do, noted under the Malden title that the commission was reforming and was looking for applicants. You've mentioned the fact that the stadium here in Malden was named for my grandfather, and that's something that's very meaningful to my family. I thought that perhaps with my background as a law firm administrator and my family's history of connection to and service to the city of Malden, that it would be worth my while to apply, and so I did.
So how did you find the application process?
I thought it was very both easy and interesting. It was easy in the sense that there was just a matter of filling out some forms and making it known to you and to Joe Levine and Ellie that I had an interest. I know you saw a lot of candidates, but we were able to have a fine discussion at City Hall in the meeting room and talk about my interest and what I thought I could bring to the commission. I think it was particularly notable that you were interested not just in the family connections or the history with the city of Malden, but in what skill sets I would actually bring in order to offer something more than just a name to serving on the commission. I thought your standards were high but not unreasonable, and I very much appreciated the idea that with this new administration and with Mayor Christensen that there was a real effort being made to allow ordinary citizens like myself to participate in government. There are only so many elected positions available. Not everyone can run for office, but everybody could be of service in one way or another, and this was an opportunity to be of service, and I'm very appreciative of it, actually.
Well, we're very thrilled to have you as part of the commission, and so how do you see your role on the commission? What do you see your role moving forward?
The composition of the commission is such, as it turns out, both with voting and non-voting members, that I probably have the least experience and background in the field of athletics, which may sound strange.
Oh, I don't know about that. I could come really close to you.
I think that's probably true. Although one of my brothers is a coach and one of my nephews-in-law helps run the sports program for the city of Boston. And it's not that I don't come from a family that's centered on sports, but from me personally, this was more about being a voice for the ordinary citizen, and I mean that, because part of what the Stadium Commission is supposed to be thinking about is the kind of usage of the facilities in the city of Malden. What would benefit the citizenry? What would be of real benefit to the community? And I think as both a woman and someone who is not involved in coaching or playing sports as some of the other members are, and I don't have the same kind of history, that I would be a voice for the mothers or the parents who don't have an engagement in playing sports or coaching sports. But I have children, I've raised my children. I know what it feels like to be interested in the kind of character building and discipline and determination, not to mention educational and scholarship opportunities that can be afforded to kids who play sports. I know what it's like to think about not having money personally to engage in activities and wanting your kids to have an outlet. And I think the city of Malden has a history of athletic excellence that can and should be maintained, but there are other things that the facilities, the stadiums and the athletic fields can and probably will be used for as we go forward. And I think it's a good thing to have that kind of a balance on a commission which is going to attract, naturally speaking, those men in particular who have the kind of background that I do not. So I sort of play a balance position.
So you're kind of, you know, play devil's advocate to all these.
Yeah, or throw out ideas or have a reaction or have a perspective that they may not. And also I might add that I continue to learn every commission session that we have. I learn from the other members because they have a wealth of information I do not and experience.
I feel very similarly to you in that regard because I have been sitting on that commission just to help out. I'm not a voting member. However, there, you know, some of the things that they talk about, I have absolutely no knowledge of some of the sports and whatnot. But it has been wonderful to have your insight where some of the folks are very particular about certain groups. You know, the Pop Warner plays and the
Youth soccer.
Malden Youth Soccers are important. And, you know, now we're talking about opening it up to outside groups.
Absolutely.
And the mayor feels very strongly that he wants this this beautiful gem in the city to be utilized by as many folks who want to use it. So it's good to have that balance of people who, you know, understand that. And so
I think so. I hope that that's what I bring to it outside of the background, as I said, my skill sets that I'd like to offer to the commission.
Well, you know, I found it must have been for you very poignant on the evening of the rededication of the stadium after the, you know, million-plus, you know, renovations that were done, to be cutting the ribbon at the stadium that bears your grandfather's name. Tell us a little bit about that.
It was a deeply meaningful personal experience, deeply meaningful on several levels. One, as you suggest, is just thinking back about my family, and you mentioned my father who served in Congress here as a representative of this district from 1954 until he died in 1976 when Ed Markey was elected to fill the seat. But of all the honors my father was afforded during his career, he felt the greatest was the naming of this stadium for his father. My grandfather had been the coach in 1928 when the stadium was first opened, and we've always felt a long and deep connection to it. Now, when I was growing up, it was known as Pearl Street, and you didn't even say stadium, it was just Pearl Street. You were going to Pearl Street, and everybody knew what it meant. But here I was standing on this incredibly refurbished stadium turf, real turf, which was the fruition of the efforts of so many people in both private and public life in Malden made that project happen. I did not. I didn't have anything to do with getting from where it had been to the refurbishing. And I stood there and I looked around and I thought to myself, this is testimony not only to Malden's long history of athletic excellence and dedication to its children and wanting to see an investment in facilities for its children, but this is real testimony to what can happen when people work together, when they have an objective, when they have something that they choose to go after and to work together to make it happen. It's really amazing. You know as well as I do, Kathleen, and I know the efforts that you've put in on it, that this is a place that is a jewel. And how wonderful is it that under Mayor Christensen's guidance that our city is very likely to become known in the public eye as that city where athletics is important, and for more reasons than just the athletic contest, but as opportunities for its community members and not just for students as well. You and I know that there are walking clubs, that there is band practice, that there are other uses.
Boot camp.
Boot camp, which I think is tonight and Thursday night that Joe Levine runs the boot camps. That there are serious opportunities for the citizens of this city to utilize this incredible stadium and to do so with no cost to them. This is something that the city offers. I thought to myself, standing there, this is really the fulfillment of a lot of people's dreams, and it's incredibly admirable that in this day and age, and with the economy that we've all been struggling through for the last number of years, that this project came to the conclusion that it did. That's the sort of mixture of personal pride and the sense of pride as a citizen, that my community and my city and my elected officials can fulfill this kind of promise.
On that note, I have to say thank you so very much for being here tonight. I am
You're very
so
welcome,
grateful
Kathleen.
that you came out, and
Thank
we're
you for
so
asking
wonderful
me.
to have you as part of the Malden Zone. We are out of time. Welcome back. Our show is just about over, but we have a surprise guest. I am so thrilled to be joined right now by Mayor Gary Christensen, who I spend most of my waking hours with. Welcome, Mayor.
Yeah,
and thank you for being here.
Well, thank you for having me, and I'm just here really to say thank you to you and Kevin and everybody else doing this show, and to really thank, I think, all the folks that serve on these boards and commissions. You and I never really get that opportunity, so you having this show tonight, you know, it's a great time to say thank you to everyone out there that's trying to make a difference in Malden.
And because of you, because of your vision of opening this process up to the public, we have gotten all these great folks.
Yeah,
we would not have otherwise known them. I know I've said that earlier, but I can't reiterate enough that you with your vision have moved the city forward in many ways, and we've got folks that we haven't
From all over, yeah. I mean, there are
over.
some people on the commissions, the boards that I've never met before. But to me, my experience serving on the school committee and the city council, that's where the best ideas are. So that's why we're working together to reach out and find people who want to give some time back to the city to make a difference.
And we did. And so you have, we had a wonderful event where we thanked a lot of the board and committee members,
Yep.
and you met some of the ones that we haven't, that you hadn't met in the past. So tell me, you would like to continue with this, this process moving
Yeah,
forward?
absolutely, and I could see the benefit of it just last night. In between the earthquake, we heard from the Walkability Commission, who
Right,
had
right,
spent a lot of time working with you and Director Knox of the Department of Public Works on how we can improve our already pretty solid rating of walkability in Malden. So I was thrilled to read the report that they worked on, and we're now looking forward to finalizing it and implementing some of the recommendations. Now, you and I alone, we couldn't have done all the work that the commission did. So it's great to have some people who want to give their time to make the city a better place to live.
So what's fabulous is you come up with an idea, you think about, we need to improve this,
Right.
all right? So there's some great folks who, and we went through the same process with
Yeah.
the walkability. There's
Yeah.
some great folks who want to help out with walking and making the city a better place, and what's the best way to do it? Let's get the people who are most interested in doing that,
Yeah.
most interested in walking, who do all the walking, to come in and advise us.
I mean, the things they were talking about last night, I would have never thought of.
Right.
So, and they're out there. And you just have to, it does take time. It's a tedious process, but you can see the benefit in the commission last night that presented recommendations on how to make Malden a better place to walk. So I think it's worth all the effort, and we're going to continue to do it. Unfortunately for you and Kevin Duffy and the rest of the staff, but I think it's
I'm very excited about it.
I think it's the only way forward.
No, I agree with you.
city.
I agree with you. And I was equally impressed by that report, led by Sharon Santillo,
Yes.
who is really just have been amazing, and actually the footwork that they've done to go to every single one of these these locations,
Right.
these crosswalks, and to try to determine which ones needed the most help, and grab the low-hanging fruit and try to take care of the ones that
so
we can do.
we'll do an announcement to the public at some point soon. I mean, most of our focus, what's also beneficial about these boards and commissions is it allows us to focus on, what has been a difficult issue for the community, and crime prevention. So, trying to work on that along with these other issues, I don't think we can do it. So that's why it's so great to have, residents step forward and serve on committees like walkability, pay as you throw, the task force that we've had on the teen center, on the transition from the Howard administration to our administration. It's just been, I look back and there's no way we would be where we are today without the residents' help and all those.
Well, it's all about the residents,
Yep.
and it's all about, reaching out and getting as many people as want to be involved in the community, in the city, advising us as we possibly can.
Right.
It's a team effort.
Right.
Rome wasn't built in a day, and this
That's for
city is, I think, we're doing the best that we can, and I think that we're working really hard. And I think, as folks can see from the people that we had on this board tonight that spoke to the residents of Malden tonight about what they're doing, we're in the right direction.
Yeah,
I think we're
so.
moving in the right direction. I think, we've been in office for 9 months now, 10 months
10
now.
months, yeah.
It does seem a little bit longer.
Yeah, just about 10.
I feel like I'm older now.
Join the club.
But, we're doing some good things.
Yeah.
I feel really good about what we're doing. And, I can't say enough about our staff and the people in the city of Malden.
Yeah, no question. I tell people often that I feel like I'm serving with 7 or 8 other mayors, because everybody's working very hard, and to have residents and business owners step forward to assist us, there's no better feeling.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
So we are nearly out of time, and I would like to thank, again, MATV, Fran Matuccio, Kevin Duffy, and all the staff at MATV for having us on and giving you, our residents, a peek into what goes on in the mayor's office. I'd also like to thank all of our guests, Shannon Brandano of the Board of Appeal, Nick Pernice of the Mystic Valley Development Commission, Drew Peppoli of the Energy Efficiency Commission, Erica Lotz of the Public Works Commission, and last but not least, Laurie McDonald of the Stadium Commission. All of these meetings, again, are open to the public and posted at City Hall. Please check the website for dates and times. And great folks, great work that these folks are doing. And thank you so much, Malden.
Get out of the dock and into the zone.